Resident Evil 3 earlier today was seemingly quote-unquote leaked on PlayStation Network, and I have a very specific stance on leaks. This one's practically news at this point because of what happened. This wasn't like some dude that's working at Capcom went to some developer and then dropped. They're like, hey, I got some sweet pics. I got some stuff. And then, you know, gave it away to someone else, which has happened in the past in some games. This is directly the fault of someone in terms of like marketing. Someone messed up. Someone like was given some marketing materials for a game reveal that's supposed to be happening next week. And of course, I'm one of those people that is absolutely preferably in a situation where I think the surprise of this would have been nice. Although Resident Evil 3 was very heavily hinted at and rumored about 2 weeks ago, week and a half to 2 weeks ago. And then it was even heavily rumored right around the launch of Resident Evil 2 that they might be working on Resident Evil 3 already. So the likelihood of this being a thing was already very high. It'd have been like, well, I knew it, like a moment like that, instead of like an, oh shit, Resident Evil 3? You know, it blew my mind. If it was Resident Evil 4, holy God, I would have lost my mind. Looking at Jill, looking at Carlos. And I'll tell you straight up, the thing that caught my eye first was actually Carlos. I think Carlos looks so much better than original Carlos. Original Carlos was just Steve Burnside with an accent. It sucked. It was terrible. It was not good. I was not a fan. Making him look like Miguel, fantastic. Way better. He's got way more character now. A lot of people are like, no, he has to look exactly the same as the original. He has to be the original Carlos. And all. I'm like, dude, I don't think, no. And this, same thing with Jill. Like, you know that Jill was going to get a redesign in some way. You knew that Jill was going to look different in some way. I think from this shot, I actually wasn't completely sold on Jill. This shot specifically, like in the angle of her face. But the weird thing is that the same thing happened with Claire. Like, Claire in some shots just didn't, I wasn't sold completely. Like, there were some parts of her that it just like, she looks kind of weird from some angles that they're choosing. She looks kind of weird. And then eventually when the game comes out, she looks weird in some shots, but I think she looks fine. I think they gave Claire a lot more character and they make her way better than the original. But the funny thing is they still give her like the original costume. Like, do you really think you're going to go into this game and you're not going to be able to put Jill in her Stars outfit? Do you really think you're going to go into this game and not be able to put Jill in her old like tube top RE3 I just got out of the club, oh God, it's a zombie apocalypse outfit? Do you really think that? Like, no, they're gonna do that. Is she going to be wearing a skirt? Is she going to be wearing jorts? I don't know. But I think the costume design, she looks sick, man. Like, I'm fine with the female characters of this game resembling like Ripley and Sarah Connor. I'm completely fine with that. Those are like my favorite female characters in anything, is like Ripley from Aliens and Sarah Connor from like Terminator 2. They're badass, man. So I'm cool with that. And the nice part about them is that they're just not badass for the sake of being badass. They are still, you know, they're still like, they're people. They treat them like they're still people. That's the thing I love about those characters so much. So, all things considered, I'm sold on this. And this is the part, as soon as I see this, as soon as I saw this shot, I was like, oh, we're fine. We're totally fine. We're totally fine. As soon as like you see it from a different angle, immediately I'm like, oh, she's cool looking. Yeah, she looks like, she doesn't look weird here at all. And it was the exact same thing with Claire in Resident Evil 2. Hang on a second. I want to do a comparison because I want to compare like this Jill to what, in my opinion, is the sickest looking Jill. I think this costume is sick. I think it's a wonderful combination of the previous ones. It looks cool in promo shots. It has the original, very much like Julia Voth look, which a lot of people are attached to because she was the original face model for Jill in Resident Evil Remake. I love this shit, man. I think this design is badass. Next to like the very, very, very original, next to like very classic, very video gamey Marvel vs. Capcom 2 Jill, you know, like her super anime look that she has in Resident Evil 1. I dig that. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. By elephant, I mean the 9-foot-tall bioorganic weapon that has caution all over and this insanely huge breathing apparatus. So they got rid of the big funky tube on the side of Nemesis. They got rid of the tube that is like, just looked like intestine on the outside, just hooked around and going around his back, and it was somehow feeding him or something. I didn't notice the nose until I looked at the other screenshot. I did not notice damn it, I didn't notice the nose. It was here that I was like, oh, well, his nose is, he's got some weird, creepy nose right here. This almost looks like art, right? It doesn't look like it is, it doesn't look like it is a render. It looks like this looks like concept art in some way. But I don't think it is. I think it actually is 3D. I think that's what they're going for. But I don't hate it. And I'll tell you why I don't hate it. Because I never, ever thought Nemesis looked scary. I always thought he looked kind of fucking weird. Like, I always felt Nemesis and his old design isn't a bad design. I think he's cool looking. But I was only ever afraid of Nemesis because of the fact that he could potentially kill you. But did he ever look scary? I didn't ever think he looked scary. Something about this, he's like a mixture between a licker and a human. Like, but giant. Just to get some comparison, we should take a look at Nemesis. Hold on. MVCI came out a couple years ago. Nemesis got, instead of the cartoony look, a very realistic, sort of Resident Evil-y look to him. So, I don't think this, I think this in some sequences, I think Nemesis actually looks pretty good in this game. Like, if you see Nemesis, like, moving around, he's okay looking. It's just that most of the other characters do not look good. Like, it makes some of the other characters look extremely bad by comparison. But yeah, it's the fact that he's like taped together, and they seemingly got rid of the whole he's been taped together look. He has some staples in his head in some spots to sort of keep the flesh from oozing out. But I think this is freaky looking. I think that's what they're going for. I think they want you to like come across Nemesis in a dark corner, and he's like deactivated or something, and you like discover him. And instead of Nemesis being the way he looks before, you come across this thing in the dark. You come across this thing in like a poorly lit area. It's gonna look fucking weird. It's gonna look odd. And it's not just the nose. Yeah, I didn't even notice the nose until they had the sideways shot. It's the fact that it was somebody's face. Like I didn't really get the impression that Nemesis was even a person at one point, you know? That he was just a hobgobbled bunch of zombie bullshit that they just threw together. And they're just like, that, and make him big and make him run. I kind of like the fact that they give him a bit more story. Like he looks like there was a guy in there at one point, and his face literally burkened out and started shifting through, and the Nemesis thing is coming through. Like, to me, I find this one a bit more Lovecraftian grotesque than the previous Nemesis. And that's because it is different. Yeah, and that's true. He might, similar to the old Nemesis, he goes through a metamorphosis throughout the game, and he actually is different looking throughout the game. I think the teeth is like, he's weird looking, man. Like, there's almost a second nose over here, or this is a cheekbone maybe. I don't even know what the fuck is going on. The way they handled Nemesis in Resident Evil 3 was way more action gamey, and everyone will agree with that, right? Like, Resident Evil 2 was already pretty damn action gamey. But Resident Evil 3 was over the top, like even more over the top than what Resident Evil 2 was, where there was like action moments almost at every opportunity. And in my opinion, it's what makes RE3 kind of, in some cases, RE3 a weaker game than 2. I remember us playing through, when RE2 was announced, we played through RE3. We played like the HD version of the game. And there's just something about RE3 that doesn't flow quite as good as Resident Evil 2, you know? It just doesn't go from point A to point B to point C as smoothly as RE2 does. And I think that's even the case for Resident Evil 2 Remake. I think even RE2 Remake doesn't have some of like the very natural, like oh, this game, like progression. Like, I think RE2 has a lot of moments, especially in your first playthrough, RE2 Remake, that stop you. Like, the whole point of Mr. X is just to stop you in your tracks. Instead of being part of that natural progression and pacing in the original RE2, he's just a part of it. It feels like a lot of shit in RE2 Remake is there to stop you from moving forward. And maybe that's because I played the game on the hardest difficulty for the first time. There is some unnecessary backtracking, like, all the Resident Evil games have unnecessary backtracking, but RE3 had some, like, not nearly as bad as Code Veronica, but some that it was obvious what they were doing here. However, what RE3 has, RE4 has the best pacing of all the games. Well, I hate to tell you, but RE4 has possibly the best pacing of any video game ever made. It's going to be very hard to beat that. Resident Evil 3 has so much variety. The places that you go in RE3, the variety of locales is way bigger than Resident Evil 2 Vanilla, and even Resident Evil 2 Remake. So you're going to be, for anyone that was like, man, I love the beginning of RE2 Remake where you're in the city and you're just running through like Zombie City. Like, that's one of my favorite parts of the original RE2 as well, but it's so brief, you know? It happens just for the intro of the game. And then once you're stuck behind the police station doors, you're really not going else back into the city. And I was like, that's one thing I always wanted. The big tough thing is that in RE3 original, they made the city the puzzle, the city itself, and figuring out how to get around barricades, how to get around like zombies in some areas. Managing the city itself became like the puzzle. And I really hope that they go kind of crazy with that in the new one. Not to the point of which it's going to be daunting, but dude, the amount of like things that they could surprise your ass with, I think is even greater in RE3 than RE2 Remake, because like I was saying in RE2 Remake, you are confined to specific locations. You're confined to the police station. You're confined to like under the police station in the sewers, and then obviously the lab in the end. So I don't know. I think that might be one of the most important things that I'm excited about with RE3 Remake, is that you have the city and Nemesis could become way scarier in the city, man. Like, how fucking creepy would it be if Nemesis didn't always just chase you down, right? There was an obvious limitation of the time. There was obviously like, Nemesis can only do so much in 1998, 1999. In old PlayStation 1 era, this guy can only do so much. But now you can make him hide, right? You can make him stalk you. You can have like sound effects and moments where you're going through like a dark alley and you're fighting zombies, and then all of a sudden you hear Nemesis, or you hear something you think is Nemesis, but you don't know is him. You don't know if that's actually him, because what if he's covert and not always just stirs? Like, what if he's not always just running at your ass? So that'd be pretty crazy if he had like a direct stalk mode, or if he could hunt you. What if he was like the Predator? Yeah. What if he actually hunted you? That is something that you can mess around with. Like, that's something that, with modern day technology, Nemesis can do a lot more than him just being, I'm gonna cook it at you and punch you, or I'm gonna shoot a rocket launcher. God, man, yeah, just think of the moments that him shooting rocket launchers at you is gonna set up. Jeez. Make save points unsafe? Nah! What you gotta do with Nemesis, if he kills you, if Nemesis kills you, he deletes your save data. That's how you make him scary. You get killed by zombies? No, you recover. You get killed by poison? No, you recover, you're fine. Bullets? You're fine. If Nemesis kills you, he deletes your save data. You want this shit to be scary? Fuck. You want this shit to be freaky? I'm just kidding, but would that being a mode? Oh my god, man.